Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the BBC. This BBC has nothing to do with Britain. This is the BBC, the big Buccaneer channel, as in the Oceanside Pirates and Buccaneer Beach. Welcome to the BBC, the Oceanside station.
Coming to you from a car-sized drone hovering over Buccaneer Beach, this is the Oceanside Station, created by born and raised OSIDers. It's the Big Buccaneer channel, and we're at www.OSIDEbbc.com. We are the BBC, the Big Buccaneer channel, where we honor Oceanside's past while embracing its future. This is episode 100 for July 22nd, 2026. It's sort of a special day for us. Thank you for joining us. And for our 100th episode, we're very pleased to announce we have a special guest interview, the brand new Oceanside Fire Chief, JESS SPECHT. And we're going to have our first of our interviews with him today. We had a fire on Pacific Street at a short-term rental. Very interesting implications about that. And we have election news. Eric Joyce will not be running unopposed in his District 1 district. And some thoughts on the recently deceased Bill Horn, who was our county supervisor for a long, long time. We have big news for the Crown Heights neighborhood. It's a great, great story. We've got our beach report and our fish story. We'll tell you what happens when you catch a black sea bass. Our happy hour will go to Ocean's 11 for our deep dive. We'll talk about the tawdry side of Oceanside in our past. When you would go into a place and pay to see movies a quarter at a time, and the boobies were cage-free. And then we'll have a special 100th episode edition of the Meter Reader, and I'll just give you a hint. It's a K Magnifique. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the news. What's worse than a prison-like stack of apartments on Coast Highway right across from In-N-Out Burger? Or along Oceanside Boulevard near Crouch Street that looks like a big penitentiary? Oh my God, what a box disaster that is. What's worse than those two things? Well, how about a development that they don't even finish and it's just sitting there with half-finished buildings turning gray in the weather? Thanks to UT reporter Phil Deal, who just this week broke the news of Vista Pacific. And it's on 3 acres along Rancho del Oro Drive near Vista Way. And the story told of like there's a $400,000 fines for building violations going back for 5 years. There's a stop work order by the city of Oceanside, and these 16 units are just sitting there rotting in the sun. It looks awful, and what's even worse is that the Orange County developer with the last name of Epstein, and I'm not making this up, folks, his name is Epstein, and what do you know? He won't return phone calls. As awful as this story is, thank you, Phil Deal and the UT, for bringing us the story of this hillside train wreck called Vista Pacific. There was a fire that broke out about 1 a.m. Sunday morning at a beachfront short-term rental at 811 South Pacific Street. And it happened in an attached garage, and no one was hurt. And luckily, the fire did not spread beyond the four-car garage there. The Oceanside fire got there real quick. They put it right out. There was smoke damage to the living quarters, but the actual living area was not impacted by the fire itself. So that's good news, and of course, nobody was hurt. Well, what's interesting is that, and this wasn't in the press release, is that this building at 811 is owned by Dr. Fischbach, and he is probably the biggest landowner in the city of Oceanside, because what he does is he buys up all these prime beachfront properties, he tricks them out, makes them, he really does a nice job of upgrading it, but he turns them into mini hotels. The neighbors can't stand what he's doing, even though he's a very nice guy, and you know, he does hire local people to clean the places, but he's made these little mini hotels. And what's interesting, and it wasn't reported in the press release from the fire department, I don't expect him to, but I looked into it, and I found that this short-term rental at 811 South Pacific is 5,900 square feet. It has 9 bedrooms and 11 bathrooms, and at the time of the fire, there were multiple families living here for their, normally it's a week stay. They were there for the week. And during this time, the noise of the parties and the parking ruins the quality of life for the neighborhood. We're sorry that this fire happened. We wish no ill will on anybody, but it's interesting that that these mini hotels are still being allowed, and it's run amok in Oceanside. So, Dr. Fischbach, I'm sorry this happened to one of your units, but some of us wish there were fewer of your mini hotels on our beachfront properties.
And there be plundering pirates lurking in every cove, waiting to board. Sit closer together and keep your ruddy hands inboard. That be the best way to repel boarders.
And now for our feel-good story of the week. This is such great news, ladies and gentlemen. The Crown Heights Resource Center, the historic Crown Heights Resource Center, after a $5 million renovation, is going to be having its grand reopening on August 11th. And that's huge news. And it was built in 1931. And it was for about 12 years after it opened. It was the Americanization School. And that's where kids who didn't speak English, normally Hispanic kids, went there to learn English, and that served for 12 years, starting in 1931. And the Americanization School, it was, as it was then known, it then became Division Street School as part of the Oceanside Unified School District. And the city bought the building 30 years ago, and it's been a resource center to help the local neighbors there with whatever needs they may have. And, of course, it was designed by famed architect Irving Gill, and it has that dome there and that, the sort of the Islam-type arches there, Arab or whatever they call it. And I'm not an architect guy. But anyway, it's a treasure. The building was refurbished, and it's going to be spectacular, this reopening. It shows that our city cares about its heritage. And it's going to be up and running and refurbished 5 years before its 100th anniversary. And it's registered in the National Registry of Historic Places. That was registered in 1994. And it's just great news. They put in a new foundation, new restrooms, new windows, new electrical, new plumbing, and now it's going to be continue to be used by the neighborhood as a resource center, and the city provides services there that helps locals in the area of food and clothing and jobs and mental health. And what's really cool is the North County Lifeline folks will continue to run their after-school program at the Crown Heights Resource Center, and their grand reopening is Saturday, August 15th from noon to 4 p.m. The refreshments will be provided by the Oceanside Police Officers Association and the Oceanside Firefighters Association. This is the BBC, the Big Buccaneer channel, where we honor Oceanside's past while embracing its future. And over the weekend, we got news that much-loved City Hall maintenance man Jimmy Ramos died after an extended illness, as did County Supervisor Bill Horn, who was our North County Supervisor on the Board of Supervisors for 24 years. Now, we used to host a Night Talk, which was North County's only talk show on AM 1000 KCEO in Carlsbad, and that was from 1988 to 2002. And one of the more memorable times we had on in 1994, there was an open seat on the County Board of Supervisors. Our own John McDonald was retiring, and so there was an open seat. And the two main candidates for District 5, which is a North County district, was San Marcos Councilman and Mayor Lee Thibodeau. Now, Lee Thibodeau's big thing was that he supported the trash-to-energy plant. And Bill Horn really didn't care much about the trash to energy plant, but those of us who kind of got into it and looked into it, some of us said this is a joke. And sure enough, the UT sort of obituary that ran a few days ago said that it was the trash to energy boondoggle. Well, at the time, people didn't really think that it was a boondoggle. Now, later on, they came to think that, but at the time, not everyone thought that, and that's what made me want to sort of not support Lee Thibodeau, and I sort of supported this guy named Bill Horn, who was a sort of an avocado farmer from Valley Center. He had a degree from San Diego State, and he went in the Marine Corps. He became a captain and served in Vietnam. There are a lot of these pictures of him in Vietnam. And he was a captain, got out and did a lot of different things, but became an avocado farmer. And I sort of like the guy, but he sort of was like an Archie Bunker in the way that he was real right-wing. He never saw a development that he didn't like, but yet he was a very lovable kind of guy. And we had him on the Night Talk show, and we were very impressed with him, and I think we said nice things about him, and he did get elected. But it should be noted that Mr. Horn would definitely play hardball. And I remember when one of his colleagues on the county supervisors, Pam Slater-Price, who covered the district, I think it was District 3 just south of us, and she had in her district the very wealthy Rancho Santa Fe, and Bill Horn, I guess it was the redistricting of 2000, he wanted to get Rancho Santa Fe in his district, I guess because there's political dollars there to be gotten, to donate to your campaign. So he got other members of the County Board of Supervisors to agree to take Escondido out of Bill Horn's 5th District and put it in Pam Slater's 3rd, and in exchange, Bill Horn got to take Rancho Santa Fe and all their wealthy residents and donors out of the 3rd. He was definitely knew how to play hardball. Very likable guy. An interesting article in the UT that he used to, in his later years, he was into building a school in Ghana, and that's very, very interesting, in Africa. And so that's very noteworthy that Bill Horn left us. He was on the County Board of Supervisors for 24 years, and he was on until they passed. You had to be termed out. You had term limits. That's the only reason he left, I guess, because I think he would have stayed for even longer than 24 years. But because term limits were voted in, he had to step down. And he was replaced by Jim Desmond, who has been there for the last 8 years. Now, it's very noteworthy, I guess, not newsworthy, but noteworthy to point out that Mr. Horn's favorite restaurant, every time he came here, if he wasn't in, the county building in downtown San Diego or at his home in Valley Center, he went to North County Transit District meetings, and every time he went to an NCTD meeting, he would eat at the old Anita's restaurant in Oceanside. Not the current Anita's, but the other Anita's a few blocks north of here. So rest in peace, Bill Horn. And also, it was announced that the public memorial for recently deceased former Mayor Jim Wood and 30-year OPD cop Jim Wood, the public memorial will be August 29th. And that's going to be from 2 to 5 p.m. at the Library Community Room in the City Hall complex downtown. And refreshments will be provided by the Oceanside Firefighters Association and the Oceanside Police Officers Association. And again, the public memorial for Jim Wood will be Saturday, August 29th from 2 to 5 p.m. All right, the City Council's office has reported that Eric Joyce will, in fact, not be running unopposed in his bid to get reelected to the District 1 seat on the City Council. That's the northwest quadrant of the city. And he will be joined on the ballot by Matthew Berry and Michael Klein. I think they are political newcomers. And as such, neither one really has name recognition, so I think it will be a climb for them to knock the incumbent Eric Joyce out of office. In District 2, Rick Robinson, the incumbent, will be facing Perry Alvarez, Oscar Ortega, Emily Gonzalez, and Ricky James. Not Rick James, but Ricky James. And also, this just in, somebody by the name of Massa Chatton. Massa Chatton will also be running in D2. Now, keep in mind that the Ricky James running to unseat Rick Robinson is not Rick James. And now it's the Big Buccaneer Channel's Beach Report with the latest from Oceanside lifeguard Captain Tyler Berry, who told us that this morning His department has been very busy indeed. In the last 7 days, they have had over 10,000 preventions. Now that is a lot of preventions. They've had 222 enforcement actions, and that includes dealing with dogs and glass on the beach, both of which are no-nos, and 172 rescues. That's just in 1 week. And he says for the next week and a half, we can expect high surf and hot temperatures. And today, Wednesday, the July 29th, they're going through their Coast Guard helicopter training, where the Oceanside's Marine Safety Unit will be jumping out of helicopters with baskets and ropes and all that stuff. And so clearly, if you're going to be on the Oceanside MSU team, the Marine Safety Unit, you have got to be fit. And meanwhile, the junior lifeguards are going to be jumping off of boats as part of their training. And it's interesting to note that one of the major activities that the lifeguards does is reunite lost kids with their parents. And what they do if they have a lost kid, they hold on to the lifeguard will watch him for 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes, if the mom or the dad doesn't show up, they call the OPD, and the lifeguards use their own PAs in their cars and in their towers, and the Oceanside Police Department use their PAs to find the parents. And luckily, in the last week, all 20 lost kids have been reunited with their parents on the beaches of Oceanside. The water temperature is 73 degrees off the coast of Oceanside, California.
I said fish, 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 fishing. Yes, I'm going fishing just to ease my mind.
All right, and now it's time for our fish story here on the Big Buccaneer channel. And this is brought to you by Stewart's Sports Fishing, one of the six-pack charter sports fishing enterprises out of the harbor. And Greg tells us that the yellowtail are out there, as are white sea bass. And it's interesting that he said that he caught last week a 250-pound black sea bass. Now, what happens when that happens is you got to throw it back. You cannot keep a black sea bass, as they are an endangered species. Now, Greg from Stewart's Sports Fishing says that if you're in Mexico and you catch a black sea bass, you can catch one per boat, but that's all you're allowed. And Greg from Stewart's Sports Fishing also said Dorado and Marlin are out there if you go more towards Catalina. This is the Oceanside Station, the Big Buccaneer Channel, BBC. Thank you very much for listening to us. And for our 100th episode, we're very happy to have with us brand new Chief of the Fire Department for Oceanside, JESS SPECHT. Chief SPECHT, thanks for joining us today on the BBC.
Thank you, Ken. I'm really happy to be here, and look forward to the conversation.
All right, so it was an uproarious swearing-in ceremony you had a few weeks ago at City Hall. My goodness, it was unbelievable, and it was just such a warm feeling. It was uproarious. There was a feeling of brotherhood, a big esprit de corps, morale. It was great. Why are things so seemingly so good now? I know money-wise, we seem to be doing good in the city of Oceanside, which is important to everybody,
Yep.
whether you work for the city or live in it. But why was morale legitimately just so over the top?
I think one of the big reasons is that Chief Parsons really had kind of put the fire department on a really great trajectory. We've developed a great strategic plan on kind of a roadmap of where we want to go. We call it Vision 2030. And so I think that has led to a lot of forward momentum. And then I think hiring or promoting from within is also a really big win for the fire department. I think when you bring in an outside candidate, they're always looking for their own personal agenda. And so me coming up through the ranks, being one of the locals, so to speak, from the fire department, I think that really, was led to a lot of the enthusiasm.
All right. And your wife, Kristen, was there, and your daughters, Evelyn and Maria.
Marla. Yep.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
Marla. Thank you.
Yep.
Pinned something on you. What do they pin on you?
Yeah, so they pinned my badge. When it's a pretty traditional thing when you get promoted or appointed to a new position, that you get a new badge for your new rank. So they pinned my fire chief badge on. And then for any officer, captain and above, we wear little bugles on our collars. And so the fire chief, I went from 4 bugles as the deputy chief to 5 bugles as the fire chief. So they pinned those on my collar as well.
Very cool. It was very neat little thing there. And
Yep.
so city manager Jonathan Borrego said that he thinks this is the best fire department in California. And I mean, that's something, you can say, but how do you quantify? You kind of start thinking, wow, really? Could this actually be the best fire department in California? And how would you quantify that?
That's a good question.
I know, it's kind of a big...
I think City Manager Borrego was certainly playing to the hometown crowd and whatnot, but I would argue that our department could hold its own against any department throughout the state, including some of the big departments, San Diego City, LA County. I think, pound for pound, we are a department that really kind of punches above its weight, where you've got a reputation for being aggressive and scrappy and getting things done. We've developed a phenomenal reputation throughout the state because we do participate in the state mutual aid system, so we send resources out to large fires up and down the state. And I think everything that our guys and gals have done is just reinforce that when we show up, things are going to get done. I think, again, very hard to quantify specifically who is "quote unquote" the best, but I would argue that we are among some of the elite departments throughout the state.
All right, you've been on the fire department in Oceanside for 23 years. What has improved over those 23 years that you can think of?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest changes I've seen is just the level of quality training and professionalism we've had. When I got hired back in 2003. The budgets were certainly almost shoestring budgets, and so having our budget increase, which led to more professional and enhanced training, has led to better trained, better equipped firefighters. Our apparatus has really improved over the years. We've added 2 new stations since I've been hired. When I got hired, we had 7 stations, and Station 7 wasn't a temporary. So we built new Station 7. We opened Station 9 out at North River Farms. And Station 8 was opened as well, and we're hoping to open a permanent Station 8 here, hopefully in the next couple of years.
All right, Chief Specht, why I think your position is kind of important is that when we had the Pier Fire a couple years ago, Chief Parsons was the internationally recognized spokesman for that whole episode there, and that he had to hold himself well, and he did. Mm-hmm. But he was the dude, and God forbid we ever have another episode like that again. But you're the guy, you're the dude. And another time why I think your job is important is that Chief Parsons showed us, I think, is that when there's a local person, Nadine Scott, who was sued over CEQA issues, which is quality of environmental quality, and she sued over something, Villa Storia, okay, and basically there were no changes, but there was the developer had to pay money. She was sort of snooping around. It seemed like she was getting prepared to file and get ready for another lawsuit regarding the building of a charging station, of EV charging station on North Coast Highway, and the chief said, "Listen, we do not see it as a problem. It's not going to explode. These are all different size batteries than we've had where there have been explosions in other areas across the country." And it seemed like his presence sort of got rid of this potential lawsuit. And I mean, what you say goes in many places. So
Sure.
it's, you do report to the city manager, but yet the buck stops with you in many cases.
Yeah, I would say that, like you said, as the fire chief, you are in a pretty autonomous spot, and your word carries a lot of weight, and your opinion carries a lot of weight. And so I think my approach to the job is, when various projects or issues come in, the lens I have to look at it through is how does it impact public safety, and in particular from a fire service side of the house. OPD has their public safety lens. I have my public safety lens, and I think it's not appropriate for me to comment on the value of a project or the value of something. I just need to comment on what potential public safety issues might it bring to the table, and as long as those can be mitigated to our satisfaction, at that point I kind of step back, and it's not my decision as to whether something should go through. I just value it from a public safety perspective.
All right. And Chief Specht, you get to select your leadership staff, which I guess is
Correct.
the deputy chief and the battalion chiefs. Have you announced that leadership team?
Yes. So with Dave, Chief Parsons retiring, and then I also had a division chief, Lucifer Kina, retire out of the training division.
Ah.
So I had a couple of movements to make. So my I have 4 division chiefs, well, 5 with Tyler Berry being the lifeguard captain. But my operations division chief is now going to be Tim Scott. He slid over from the administration division chief position. My new administration division chief is John Regner. My new training division chief is Wesley McGee. And Blake Dorse is remaining as my community risk reduction division chief. And then I also promoted 2 new battalion chiefs to backfill those guys working out in the stations, and that is Blaine Hensley and Anthony Walker.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So the deputy chief still has yet to be named.
Yeah, deputy chief so the division chiefs are just appointments that I can make as the fire chief. The deputy chief position is actually a formal promotable position that I need to do a formal promotional process for. And I anticipate having that process done by end of August, early September, and the deputy chief will be named by then.
All right. So a lot of people aren't really clear on what a quote unquote fireman does. And I think the percentage of what your time or your crew spends its time on has increased over the years, from being a quote unquote fireman who puts fires out to the EMT. I mean, the percentage of your guys, what they spend on medical assistance, is probably a big proportion of what they spend their resources on.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the numbers, EMS, emergency medical services, which also includes, vehicle crashes, rescues, things like that, that accounts for roughly 80% of our call volume, give or take. And fires really have dwindled down to roughly 7 to 8% of our call volume. So yeah, it's more or less a 10-to-1 ratio, EMS to fire responses. So yeah, they spend the bulk of their time doing EMS, emergency medical services type calls.
And the city, I think, eats it to the tune of, I don't know how much, but it seems like a lot of times the city does not get to recoup its expense for those hugely expensive ambulance calls.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know that the fire department as a whole is not a revenue generator. It is an expense to the city budget. And yes, while we do recoup and get some reimbursements and payments for ambulance transports, they don't come anywhere near matching what we're spending to provide that service. I do know that ambulance revenue is to the tune of $5 plus million annually. So we do recoup a decent amount. But again, the fire department doesn't exist to generate money.
So here's sort of a left field question. It seems that there might be some firefighters who are frustrated with the fact that they have to go in a big truck with maybe an EMT ambulance as well, repeatedly to service the same drunk who passes out in the street. That's got to be a problem, with morale maybe, or what?
Yeah, I mean, there's a term that the fire service has kind of coined in recent years. It's called compassion fatigue. And really, it's running on the same incident, even if it's not the same person per se, the same type of incident. Someone, unfortunately, we have a decent amount of homeless issues in the city. And so running on those time and time again certainly starts to wear down your morale. And, it can get tiring, especially if those calls are coming in the middle of the night, which unfortunately a lot of them do. So you add to that, just general fatigue, sleep deprivation. I can say that prior to this podcast, I looked into some of our stats, and fortunately, homeless-related incidents have been dwindling over the last couple of years. The trend is going down, so we're making progress in that arena, so that's a good thing.
We are speaking with new Fire Chief Jess SPECHT. This is the Big Buccaneer Channel. The Flying Pig has been called out by San Diego Magazine as the place that first put Oceanside on the map as a food destination. But do yourself a favor and do not forget that the Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen in downtown Oceanside has daily lunch specials built around their homemade pasta. Daily lunch pasta specials may include spaghetti or rigatoni or campagnelli, whatever pasta is made that day, drenched in bouillabaisse sauce. The Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen at 501 Mission with a magnificent homemade pasta lunch special from 11:30 to 4:30 weekdays. The Flying Pig is the place for freshly made pasta and weekday lunch specials. www.oceansidepig.com.
Delicious.
I like it too. Yes, I do like it.
Delicious.
Yes, it is.
It's time for happy hour, that time on the Big Buccaneer Channel when we highlight an Oceanside eatery or night spot that features food or drink specials during happy hour or any time they choose. And we told you a few weeks ago that Attorney General Rob Bonta was told you cannot squeeze blackjack out of all the card rooms up and down the state of California to try to pander to the Native American casinos. The Superior Court judge said, no. You can continue to have blackjack, which is the bread and butter for many of these card rooms, including Ocean's 11 here in Oceanside, which gives the city of Oceanside over $1 million a year in taxes and has no problems related to crime. So we thought we'd turn to them and find out about their happy hour. Now, we used to know that during happy hour at Ocean's 11, their lounge had, I think, the best happy hour in town during football season. Well, they scaled it back, and now, especially since it's not football season, their happy hour is only $1 off of their drinks. And the well drinks are between $6 and $10. So $1 off of that. Their beers, draft beers, are $8 or $9, $1 off of those. and the wine is either $8 to $60 a glass, because I guess they got some very expensive wine there. But basically, the lounge, Ocean's 11, it's $1 off during happy hour, and the happy hour is 7 days a week from 4 to 7 in the afternoon, and then from 10 to midnight. Now, you can also get food brought into you at the lounge. They have a full kitchen there, and for instance, on Monday, their special of the day was liver and onions. That might be the only place in town that still serves liver and onions, a yummy dinner of liver and onions. And the lounge there at Ocean's 11 also has French fries, onion rings, taquitos, and, of course, burgers and salads. And that's all at Ocean's 11 in Oceanside. Take it off. Take it all off. If you are of a certain vintage, you will remember that TV ad from like 40 or 50 years ago that it was a shave cream ad, and the idea that it, take off your beard. Well, it was sort of a play on the whole strip bar thing. Well, if you are of a certain age and you were a local, you will also remember that we had our own history of topless bars here in Oceanside. Yes, there was a time when Oceanside had its tawdry side. And it was, in fact, a hotbed of X-rated theaters and peep shows and topless. And there was even a fully naked bar where you could go in and see everything you wanted. And so let's point out, this blows my mind that in the 70s, for a year or two, there was something called the Pussycat Theater. Now, it was an actual theater that you would go into, and it wasn't a booth thing, but you just watch a movie. It was a pornographic movie, and it was located on 3rd Street, now Pierview Way, where City Hall Complex is now. And it was just south of the old City Hall, which is where the Oceanside Museum of Art is now. Further on west, right on the alley. There used to be an alley there, and that's where the Pussycat Theater was. And it, of course, was torn down, along with the old Safeway store that was nearby there. And but the Pussycat Theater, how ironic, it's where City Hall is now. And in the 60s and 70s, next to the original Anita's, on the 100 block of North Hill, and that's where the Regal Theater complex is now. Well, that whole block was torn down. That was called the core block. There were 2 blocks right there, and everything there was torn down. And for a long time, it was nothing but grass. People loved that central area just for the grass area there. But anyway, there was a peep show booth area right next to Anita's. Then it was called Hill Street, Coast Highway. And you'd go in there and you would watch, you put your quarters in and you'd watch your movies there. And there was also at 316 Pierview Way, which is now a lingerie store called Romantics. Yes, it's still there. Well, that had a back room where you would go and you'd also put in 25 cents to watch your peep shows at 20 at a quarter at a time. And then those booths went away, and the store sort of upgraded itself, and it now sells lingerie, and there are no reported problems with police, and it's been that way for over 20 years. Now, just west of that pornographic bookstore and booth area was something called Playgirl, the Playgirl Club, and that they didn't serve alcohol there. And the metric was, that's in Oceanside, that if you were, your performers could be all naked, but you couldn't serve alcohol. If you wanted to serve alcohol, you had to just be topless. So that was the rule, and the Playgirl Club was there until 2002, when the city bought the building for like $800,000. Okay, great. And now it houses the Surf Museum. Good thing. But what some of us never understood, they paid an additional $700,000 to the owner. His name was Skip Arthur, for the business. Now, obviously, the city wasn't operating the business, but they just wanted him to go away. I don't think the business was worth at all. It wasn't worth over $100,000. Yet the city wanted so badly to have the Playgirl out of there. They gave him an additional $700,000 for the naked girl dancing business, where you could go in and buy a Coke. I'm sorry, but it wasn't worth $700,000. But I guess that's all in hindsight now. And everyone's much happier now with Pierview Way, and that it's been cleaned up. Now, also, do not forget that where the cream of the crop is now, on Coast Highway, near Vista Way, there used to be a bar called the Man Trap. And yes, they had the pole, and they had the liquor, and they had the dancing topless girls. And that was in the 60s and I think early 70s. And, of course, now that's where the cream of the crop is. And the oldest topless bar in Oceanside, formerly Dirty Dan's, formerly Francine's, was the main attraction, also known as the Purple Church. Now, it closed for good in 2020, and even though there were some busts there over the years for bartenders selling something they shouldn't be selling, the major reason that the main attraction was torn down and razed was because it was simple economic reasons. They wanted to build that penitentiary-looking monstrosity called Alta, and it looks like a great big box-like prison. Well, I guess that's progress for you in Oceanside, and the main attraction is gone forever, and we now have the lovely Alta high-rise menagerie there. Okay, and thanks to Bill Marquis, who was a former Oceanside High graduate with me, who helped me recount all this stuff, and he was with the city of Oceanside for 30 years. And Bill tells me that Skip Arthur, who owned the Playgirl, also owned a plot of land across from the main attraction, which is where the parking lot is now for In-N-Out Burger. And according to Bill, Skip Arthur's son wanted to open, and this is such a wonderful story from Bill, he wanted to open a drive-through donut shop where the woman selling you the donuts would be topless. Unfortunately, folks, that never came to pass in Oceanside. Now it's time for the Oceanside Meter Reader, the segment where we gift a local person, place, or phenomenon on its degree of wonderfulness or worthlessness with a rating from K Magnifique down to nuclear dumpster fire. And ladies and gentlemen, it is only appropriate that for this 100th episode, our perfect record producer engineer Vaughn Ramirez gets this award. Thank you very much, Vaughn, for 2 years of this. You never missed an episode. 100 episodes. And I think there was only one mistake, but that's okay. We'll live with that. And thank you very much, sir, for your excellent work, your great attitude. You laugh at my stupid jokes. Thank you, my man. And I think we've gotten somewhere with this. Thank you, sir, for all the great work that you do and your attitude. That gets Vaughn Ramirez the best possible Oceanside meter reader ranking for episode 100 for the Big Buccaneer channel. It's K Magnifique. It's a rare treat. It is an Oceanside, or he is, I should say, Vaughn Ramirez, an Oceanside treasure.
C'est magnifique.
That wraps it for episode 100 for July 22, 2026. This is the Big Buccaneer channel, the BBC, and we'd like to hear from you at 442-452-2623 or via email at osidebbc@gmail.com. We'd like to give special thanks to our interview with new Fire Chief JESS SPECHT. Thanks to Bill Marquis and Christy Hawthorne, who over the years have helped us with our deep dive segments. And special thanks to Oceanside Lifeguard Captain Tyler Berry and audio producer, engineer, K Magnifique engineer Vaughn Ramirez. Until next week, this is Ken Treadway saying thank you, Oceanside.